Easy guys, Dom here from Cringy Dad Gaming. So in this video I'm going to be discussing my experience playing the launch beta for Icarus first cohort. I have been fortunate enough to receive a key from the developer to play this, so thanks to them for sending this over. Now I'm going to be discussing everything that I've experienced in the game so far, the good, the bad and the ugly, and just really at this point I'm fully aware that this is a beta and there's still a lot of time before the game's final release. So I'm staying pretty optimistic because what I've played of the beta so far, I've enjoyed a lot of elements in it. Like the game just looks fantastic, the core survival elements are there, and I have to say that the UI and different crafting menus just look beautiful, as well as the graphics in the game as well. But there's also some serious performance issues currently with the game, and I'm going to start my discussion by going through my experience with that at this point. So unfortunately I'm getting quite poor performance, even after tinkering around with the graphics settings, and actually saying that changing some of the settings has actually caused multiple crashes to desktop for me while I've been in the game and trying to change some of the settings just to try and get the frame rates up and a little bit of a smoother frame rate in the game, and that was quite frustrating for me at the start. I started playing the beta with the settings that the game had automatically set for me, which was high pretty much across the board with DLSS set at performance, and I was probably only getting around 30 frames per second, which, if you're wondering if I'm playing this game on a potato, it's not quite a potato. I'm running an i7-8700 Intel CPU with 32 gig of RAM, and my graphics card is an RTX 2070. Now I can run a lot of AAA games that are very intensive on performance on max settings and usually hit around 80 plus frames per second on those types of games, but the frame rates were just not feeling very smooth. I ended up dropping down a lot of my settings graphically in the game to a mixture of high, medium and low, with things like draw distance being left at high because unfortunately it doesn't look very good if you put it on medium, and I had shadows on low because shadows is usually quite intensive on certain games, so I put that down to low. Things like post-processing and effects in the game down to medium, and I was then hitting around 50 frames per second, but it just still didn't feel very smooth. And I also noticed that sometimes certain graphical elements were not rendering in at all, making the graphics look quite ugly in places, and there was also this weird blurring going on with some of the grass and things like that at certain points, which I also thought was very odd. And it's a real shame because you can see around the edges that the game just looks and is going to look fantastic, but it needs some serious optimizing for sure, and there's just no denying that fact. And I'm just really hoping that they're going to be able to optimize the game to make it run smooth and look graphically fantastic for people that have got PCs that should be able to run this game on the max settings no problem. Now I did like how you mine and fell trees and collect crafting materials. It felt quite smooth. The sound design and sound effects of chopping trees and picking things up off the floor is spot on, and to be honest with you, the sound design in general is very, very good. Creates a really good atmosphere and feels very immersive. But the only thing for me that I didn't really like and actually broke the immersion a little bit for me is all the highlighting and outlining of every single bush and tree. Now this really only pops out to me when I was trying to hunt animals and I was trying to sneak through the bushes, and everything was just highlighting on the screen, and at the moment there's no option in the game settings to be able to turn that off, and I would really like to see an option to be able to turn that off. There can still be icons and stuff on the screen to be able to collect these things, but I just don't want to see all the highlighting. I just think it ruins the look of the game and the immersion for me personally. Everyone's going to feel differently about this sort of thing. Some people might like it, but like you can pretty much pick up everything in the game and mine pretty much everything as long as you've got the right tool. And I think just a small icon on the screen is all I need to know that I can mine, fell a tree, or collect or pick up an item. Even if it's just a little hand symbol coming up on the screen, that's all I need. And that is something that I would like to see, you know, added to the game. I did find not having a toggle to be able to crouch though while I was hunting as well was a little bit jarring while trying to sneak through bushes. I personally like to be able to toggle crouch, and you know, once I've pressed my button, and I normally bind it to one of my mouse buttons on the side of my mouse to be able to crouch, and then just stay crouched until I press that button again. At the moment I'm having to hold the button down while trying to aim my bow and fire at the same time. And when it comes to using the bow, I do find that early on it doesn't seem to do much damage even against smaller animals. So I think that needs to be maybe increased a little bit while you're trying to get food. Although I did find being able to swim and spear fish and things like that to be able to get food was quite cool and quite fun, and I did like that. So even though some of the things that I'm talking about may sound quite critical, I'm really confident that Dean Hall and his team are going to be able to take this feedback on board and be able to implement some of these changes to make the game better, because I am still extremely excited about this game and confident that it's going to be a fantastic survival game. I really like Dean Hall's vision on the game, and I do think that it's a fantastic setting and some exciting different biomes as well for you to be able to explore and mine exotics from as well. So I think once they get past the stages of being able to correct some of these issues that are in the game, and I'm mainly talking about the performance, kind of the cosmetic side of how I feel about how certain things work, as I've mentioned about obviously the highlighting of bushes and trees. That's just my personal opinion, and I'm hoping they're going to give people more options to be able to tailor things like that in the settings to be able to get the game to look how they want. But in terms of at the moment, the main issue for me is the performance, and I'm hoping by the next beta that falls in September that is going to be something that's ironed out, because I think this is quite damaging for the game to a certain extent. I've already seen a lot of people on Steam in the discussion saying they're going to refund the game purely based on the performance, and that is not good at this stage. They need to make sure that the performance is there, and the thing as well is you're only really exploring a very small section of the map to a certain extent, because I was reaching the borders of the map quite quickly, saying you're leaving the mission zone, and it should really be quite a big area for you to explore. And if they're only giving you a very small area within the beta, then surely the performance should be, you know, a lot better than what it is currently. I'd like to see traps in the game as well, like for hunting, because like I said, using the bow with the stone tip arrows don't seem to be very powerful even on smaller animals, and the spear, the distance you can throw it is very short and again doesn't seem to do a lot of damage. So trying to get food to be able to sustain yourself, the easiest way I found, obviously as I mentioned earlier, was spearing fish. That seems to be the easiest way to get food, but I would like the option to be able to make some small snares and other traps to be able to catch some of the smaller animals in, potentially. Now I don't know if I've missed that could be something that's already going to be implemented into the game or could be in there at a later point, but I just felt that like early game survival can seem a little bit rough until you get established, and I'd not been able to get established in the game because unfortunately I kept having to leave or the game was crashing because of these issues I was getting. So yeah, maybe I've not been able to explore the game as much as I would have liked to at this point, but I do see a bright future for this game, and I can see it being a fantastic survival game once they iron out some of these issues. Now the game does have some basic character customization. I'm not really too sure on how I feel about this. You know, I do normally like quite in-depth character customization, and this game has it, but it is very basic. Not a lot of options really, but I don't know if you really need it in a survival game that much. Maybe more in an RPG, but I don't know. I mean, it's there, and it could probably use a little bit of filling out maybe with options that you can choose. Who knows, these things might be buffed and added at a later time, but for now it is there in quite a basic form. I really do hope that one of the development team has come across this video. I know they watched one of my last videos that I made, and hopefully take this feedback on board as constructive and not me being negative at all, because I'm not being negative. I'm really excited for this game and I want it to be really good, you know, so I think it's really good to feedback this sort of thing for the developers to be able to action and get the game to the best point it can be. But just watch this space for more Icarus. I will be covering this game extensively on the channel, especially once it launches. And if you guys want to check out more, check out the game on Steam. If you do pre-order it, then you will get access to all the beta weekends running right up until its launch in November. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on another video. Thanks for watching.